The value is that it's a community facility, it's there for all the community to use.
Local people are beginning to realise that they can have a voice and have a say in what happens directly in their community.
The impact, we would say, would be massive, because it is the only base in our community.
Our community is one where people have been very used to having things done to them, but certainly with the second asset, which is such a high-profile building, they take great pride in the fact that it happened here and we made it happen in our community.
For us as a council, the value of working with a third sector organisation and transferring an asset is really all about what that does in terms of service delivery, in terms of encouraging people to come through the door and feel not that they're having something done to them, but actually there's an opportunity that they can engage themselves in.
It's about community pride.
Both when we were dealing with the district council and still in county, is you've got one group of people in economic development and regeneration who are really wanting to make a difference in the local area and see us as a way to help make that happen. And then there's another group of people in the estates department who are charged with making money out of the assets that the actual council own. And that's one of the biggest things to overcome, because they almost fight each other internally in terms of how it works.
The struggles to get the Brass House Centre for a lot of years. We're based out of it since the early 90s. We entered negotiations with Sandmark Council to get a lease on the building, and those took a great many years. But in June 2007, we did get a lease. But it was a 5-year lease, a 5-year rolling lease, which is great, but it's not the kind of lease that allows us to invest in the building.
I think our notable successes is that we're still here after the property market has crashed around our ears. We haven't had to get rid of anybody. We haven't had to take away any of our services from our community. And for us, that's been a massive key point of the whole model that we use, is that when we introduce a service to our community, it's there for the long term. It's not going to stop when the funding stops.
The most important thing would be to widen out the effort from local authorities to the wider public sector. There's land and buildings in other parts of government, in the health services, in some of the national departments, that really isn't being put to good use.
I think what is needed is continued encouragement, both for local government and for community groups, to actually consider asset transfer as a core part of their activities.
In the current economic climate, it's becoming harder to justify to asset management that we should be letting go of a building that perhaps they thought they might be able to sell for some considerable amount of money to the private sector. If there was something in terms of targets that actually incentivised the transfer of assets to the third sector, I think that would begin to make that part of the equation work much better.
The policy at the top is fantastic, but we need the local authorities to actually act upon that.
Rhetoric's great, we need some reality put into action.
I think there's always a danger in changing if things don't work immediately, which means you don't give things a chance to bed down. And something as significant as asset transfer needs an opportunity, I think, for government to think it through, to look at how theory becomes practice. The one thing I think government should look at, which has already been introduced in Scotland, is the community right to buy, which would add some impetus, I think, to local authorities, particularly thinking about the asset transfer agenda.